If you have any information pertaining to this case, please contact the Georgia Bureau of Investigation at 912-871-1121. Between 2 and 3 p.m. on the 14th of February 1988, a man decided to look for cans inside a dumpster, just off of Kaiser Road and Old Perkins Road in Millen, Jenkins County, Georgia. Instead of the cans he was searching for, he found a brown wheeled nylon suitcase or duffel bag. He cut open the suitcase and was met with a foul odor and the sight of swollen flesh. After this, he returned to his car where his girlfriend had been waiting for him. The man and his girlfriend decided to drive to a friend's house. They picked up the friend and the three of them drove back to the dumpster. When they arrived back on the scene, a small brown vehicle was present, but it promptly left. Two children reportedly observed a similar vehicle near the dumpster on the 12th of February, from which a distressed voice called out, "My baby." The children then saw a man and a woman, both white and approximately 50 years old, get out of the car and throw something into the dumpster. When the couple's friend investigated further, they confirmed that there was what looked like a body in the suitcase, and the police were called. Police arrived on the scene between 4 and 4:45 p.m. They inspected the suitcase and found inside the body of a young female wrapped in plastic and duct tape. In 1998, evidence pertaining to this case was re-examined, resulting in a brownish gold-colored fiber being found on the tape around her body. They were able to determine that she had been dead for anywhere between 4 days and 1 week prior to being discovered. The dumpster was last emptied 2 days before the body was found on the 12th. A cause of death was not discovered during the autopsy, but she is thought to have been asphyxiated. As such, this case is being investigated as a suspected homicide. She was badly decomposed, and that made it difficult to determine many of her features. As a result, facial reconstructions may not be entirely accurate. The initial autopsy report stated that she could have been Hispanic, though it is now thought she was Asian with possible white ancestry, or she could have been of indigenous descent. She was originally reported to have been between 20 and 30 years old. The more recent reports put her at 16 to 25 years old, standing between 5 feet 4 inches and 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing between 135 and 145 pounds, having coarse, long and thick, straight dark brown or black hair, brown eyes, recently shaven legs, crooked upper teeth, and a lower molar extracted not long before her death. In the suitcase along with her body, several items were found, and investigators think that they may have belonged to the victim herself, possibly originating from her own bedroom or perhaps her place of employment. These items were a pale green-colored decorative pillowcase with a floral pattern, holding a pillow that had been purchased from Walmart, a maroon-colored quilt with a similar pattern to the pillow, and a towel with a butterfly pattern on it. It has apparently been established that the bedding was manufactured in Korea. Clothing was never mentioned, so one must assume she was found nude. A rape kit was performed, and no seminal fluid was detected. There was no sign of physical injuries, though the autopsy was able to determine that she had been bound at the feet. She had no drugs in her system when she died. Her remains were cremated by a local funeral home before a DNA sample could be obtained. As a result, her dentals and a single fingerprint are her only identifiers at present, providing that they have not been lost to time. DNA could potentially be lifted from the bedding found with her body. Police believe that her killer knew the area well. Millen was rural and sparsely populated. It's likely that only locals would have had knowledge of the dumpster, as it was not visible from the road. 3 days after the body was found, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation tip line received a call from someone who was described as a young adult black male. This man said, and I quote, "I want to tell about the girl's death. Talk to Johnny Young. Someone ought to talk to Johnny." Johnny Young, who is now deceased, was a 23-year-old man from Millen. Young had, at the time, recently traveled to Orlando, Florida, and arrived back in Millen on the 9th of February with a suitcase or a bag big enough to conceal a body in. Upon receiving the tip, police questioned Young. He stated that he knew nothing of the unidentified girl and volunteered to take a polygraph test. During the interview, he curiously asked if his uncle had accused him. This, of course, made police want to question his uncle. They did so, and Young's uncle had quite a bit to say. He claimed that he heard from a woman who lived nearby that Young frequently hung out with two men, both of whom were supposedly involved in the drug trade. Young and his two friends were supposedly in a club in Claxton on the 10th of February with a young Puerto Rican girl. Later that night, Young allegedly stole all of one of his friends' money and accompanied the Puerto Rican girl back to Millen. Young's uncle said that the woman had told him that she feared that the girl was the recently found Jane Doe. Police, of course, then questioned the woman, who denied making any of these statements and offered to take a polygraph test. Workers at the club in which Young, his friends, and the girl were supposedly sighted reportedly stated that they didn't remember seeing anyone matching their descriptions in the club that night. Young was interviewed once more on the 22nd of February. In this interview, he confirmed that he did know one of the men who his uncle had stated he'd been seen with. Indeed, they'd been best friends at one point in time, though he'd never met the other man and had never been involved with a Puerto Rican girl. His involvement in the case could not be proven, so they let him go. In 1991, Deputy Campbell of the Jenkins County Sheriff's Office received a call from a man who sounded remarkably similar to Johnny Young. The caller claimed to be known to Campbell and asked if Campbell remembered the girl. He claimed that he was in New Jersey and had tried to turn himself into the police there, as he was tired of running, but they didn't believe him. He ended the call by asking Campbell to come pick him up. Young was located in New Jersey, and police questioned him yet again. He denied that the caller was him and instead implicated his uncle, asserting that his uncle and his friend had shown him the dumpster in which the woman was dumped before her body was found and told him the story of the girl's murder. Police then re-interviewed everyone involved with Young. His uncle, naturally, declared his nephew's claims untrue. Young's friend, who had dropped him off at his grandmother's house on the 14th of February 1988, claimed in his interview that Young had known about the body in the dumpster by the time the same friend picked him up at 9. I should note that I'm unsure whether this was 9 a.m. or p.m. This information is from the Full Line podcast. The host simply stated 9. The Doe Network notes that a relative of Young had carpeting in their bedroom similar to the fiber found on the tape on Jane Doe's body. Still, to this day, nobody has been charged with her murder. Amateur sleuths have theorized that perhaps she was a victim of either Larry Dwayne Hall, Keith Hunter Jesperson, or Samuel Little, 3 serial killers active at the time of her suspected murder. It's also been theorized that she could have been a migrant worker or a victim of human trafficking. In 2018, evidence was sent to be retested at the regional office, and requests were made to obtain records in storage. If her remains are located and bone fragments are present among the ashes, there is a possibility that DNA could be extracted from these fragments. Before I end this video, I would like to thank Gen Kaneshiro for suggesting that I cover this case. Multiple missing people have been ruled out as being this decedent. A list of these rule-outs will be in the description. Again, if you believe you have any information pertaining to this case, you are urged to call the GBI at 912-871-1121. Thank you very much for giving the case of the Jenkins County Jane Doe a moment of your day.